Virtue, official partner of Sunderland AFC.
Good afternoon everyone and welcome to SAFC Live. We are pitch side here for Sunderland versus Cardiff City. Let's give you the team news a little bit later than usual, but this is Vigisa's starting 11 and it's unchanged, Danny Collins.
Yeah, as we were at Sheffield Wednesday, obviously went there last Friday night and picked up the 3 points. It wasn't a classic, was it? But sometimes you've got to dig in and get the job done, and that was the case last Friday. But back on home soil this afternoon. Last game here was a defeat, wasn't it, against Hull, so we've got to bounce back at home, and hopefully we can do that this afternoon against the Cardiff side who are struggling this season.
Thanks very much, Danny. We'll look at the team again in a little bit more detail very soon, but we have some special guests with us this afternoon here at the Stadium of Light. We have Marcus Stewart, of course, former teammate of Danny's as well, and Martin, who's going to do an amazing challenge, all in the aid of the charity, of course, which is very close to everyone's heart around here at Sunderland AFC. First up, Marcus, how are you at the moment?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Symptoms are very slow for me, so I just carry on every day and see how I go on. Every month changes for me, but something that changes. So, for instance, I might be picking a kettle up, which I could do 2 months ago, and I probably can't do now. I had to fill the kettle, just one cup, not to the top. So I had to adapt, and that's what I do every 2 months.
Well, everyone here at Sunderland AFC and all the fans around the world are fully behind you, Martin, during this period of time in your life, because you were such a massive player for this football club, and it was during a time, an amazing time at Sunderland. Have you got fond memories of playing for Sunderland?
I loved it. I mean, to be at this great club, get a relegation, which hurt me, from the Premier League, to then have 2 seasons in the Championship, losing in the playoff semi-finals here to Palace, and then the year after, winning as champions, that's something that dreams are made of, and I'm so glad I did that for this club, because it deserves to be in the Premier League. As we all know, it's big enough. You get 40,000 fans every week. No club with that big of fans shouldn't be in the Premier League.
Yeah, Danny, good days, and hopefully back very soon.
Yeah, fantastic. Just had a quick catch up there off air, and it was a great player, good finisher, Marcus. Obviously him, Stevie Elliott, top end of the pitch, so you couldn't go too far wrong. And those boys done the business, as we say, at the top end of the pitch, and got us back into the Premier League.
We'll speak about today's game in a second, guys. But Martin, you're doing this challenge. Just tell everyone watching around the world what this challenge is and all of it's in need of course.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the challenge is a MND 777 challenge. Basically, it's an attempt to run 7 marathons across the UK, 7 different counties in 7 days. Starts on May the 5th down in Somerset with Marcus and Louise Stewart. We're going to be at Portishead Football Club, but the big day, obviously, for Sunderland, Tyne and Wear is Saturday, May the 10th. We're going to be running from St James's Park all across Tyne and Wear, finishing here at Stadium of Light with Steve Cram, Tamara Taylor. I think the Mayor of Sunderland's going to come out, and we're just asking anybody to follow MND 777 on all the social media channels. We've been planning this for 10 months, so yeah, it's a big week coming.
You are a runner. You've run these kind of challenges before in your past, or is this a new thing for you?
This is, I promised my family after the last event 2 years ago, it was my last, but I went back on my word. Yeah, this is the 4th event. We've managed to raise around 70k for the 4 MND charities. Yeah. So Derby Rimmer Foundation, big driver there with Stephen and Steph. The MND Association itself, the Mel Evans Foundation, and Leeds Hospitals charity. As kind of a former amateur rugby coach, the Rob Burrow connection, God bless him, was the original driver. But Marcus here, massive inspiration. A lovely guy, and we'll try and do our very best for him in May.
How does it feel when you see people doing these challenges, Martin?
I said before, I try not to think about it too much, because you get so emotional about it. There's so many people that want to help. Martin's been great for the charities and other charities as well. So I'd rather he's doing seven marathons in 7 days than me, if I'm honest. But I know from not speaking for the other 5,000 people with MND, how much appreciated, how much it gives us hope.
Good. Okay, let's bring things up to speed with the football markets and Sunderland's chances of promotion. Have you seen much of Sunderland this season? They're in a good position, aren't they?
In bits. I must admit, I watch Ipswich more because their games are on different weeks, like Mondays, Sundays, whereas on a Saturday, generally, I'm away watching my boys play rugby. So I've watched bits, and I keep an eye on where they are on the table. I just think it'd be really hard to go up automatically. You've got the top 3 that are almost cemented. I'm not saying they can.
But we're sort of cemented in that 4th space as well, aren't we?
Yeah, you are, but then cemented for the playoffs, I'd say, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 more wins will get you there. But we had a great running, didn't we, towards the end of the season? Yeah. I think we went something like 17 unbeaten. Yeah. And the champions, we came from nowhere. So I'm not saying that can't happen. Yeah. That can happen. Just at the moment, it looks like the top 3 are going for 2 spots, and maybe 6 or 7 are going for playoffs.
Yeah. What's it like when you get that momentum? Do you feel indestructible? Do you feel like you're going to go out every game and win? Get those wins back to back?
Yeah, well, I think you look at Coventry, prime example, at the minute under Frank Lampard's come in, he's got them going. I think they were 2-0 up when we come on air against Stoke, weren't they? So they're the team to look for, really. And I think the worry for us would be sort of meandering, really. We can't quite get to the automatics, but then we're not comfortable for the playoffs going into the last 3 or 4 games. But you can't let that happen, can you, and play within yourselves, because team coming up the rails, Coventry or 1 or 2 others, maybe West Brom, come into the playoffs with momentum, then you get caught cold. So you've got to stay at it. Obviously, you may be looking at trying to rotate the squad a little bit if you can, get some lads some game time. But obviously you've got to stay focused, and obviously a trip to Wembley, which we had a couple of years ago, was fantastic. Not a bad way of getting promoted. Yeah,
I guess it's trying to keep those players motivated, even though it looks like playoffs are on, but it's all about momentum going into those final games.
I agree. I mean, I think whoever goes, I'm not saying this, I don't know the stats on this, but if you go into the playoffs back of a few wins on the trot, then you've got a great chance of winning it, because your confidence levels are sky high. So like, it's very important that the manager, if Sunderland qualify for the playoffs, can't match it, but got 3 games to go, that's a tough situation he's got to deal with. So it'll be interesting how he deals with that.
Yeah. And how do you keep on going, doing back-to-back marathons, and what keeps you going? Is it just that Marcus's inspiration?
Yeah, like I said, we've done this before. This is probably the toughest challenge. Where you just got to dig deep, really, when it starts hurting, and the week in May is going to hurt really a lot. You know, we're going to really test us mentally.
You've got to keep up with Steve Cram as well, so I'm not surprised.
Unfortunately, he's only got the last miles on day 6, so yeah, it's 183 miles, and it's, we're going to go through a lot of pain. But compared to what the M&D Warriors are going through, and we've seen it firsthand, it's just we'll recover. We can take a few seats and we'll get over it. So yeah, we just dig in, and every day we'll think of somebody who can push us on.
And just finally, Martin, how can people help if they want to?
Yeah, just jump on Instagram, MD777 challenge. Like I say, it's running. There's a huge amount of people taking part across the whole week. Massive club for hosting us today. Follow us on that. QR codes are on there for links later on. But yeah, follow the challenge on Instagram and follow the story in our journey.
Right. Good luck to you, and of course everyone's with you, Marcus. In the northeast, of course. Go and enjoy your afternoon now at Sunderland. You can step out and enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much. Thank you, Martin. All the best.
Marcus,
take care.
Nice
to see those guys back together. Take care. Thank you. Marcus Stewart there, an amazing character, and he's the way he's handling things at the moment. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, no, fantastic. Listen, obviously it's not great what he's going through, but you can see him there. Good to have him. It's been a few years since I spoke to Marcus, and obviously my first season coming into the club, he was one of the senior pros, and I mentioned it there, top striker.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, excellent, yeah. Proper fox in the box.
He already had a name
striker.
for himself in football before he came to Sunderland, didn't he?
Exactly, yeah.
And I remember when we signed him, I was like, I can't believe we could sign Marcus Stewart. Yeah.
But no, he was, and great around the training ground with the boys, and saying that he enjoyed his time at the club. And you speak to a lot of the ex-boys, and obviously good times at the club together and get promoted, but just what it means to play for Sunderland, you can still see that with Marcus.
Okay. A quick look at time. So what we're going to do is going to go to a quick ad break, and then we're going to get stuck into this game behind us this afternoon. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff. It's Sunderland versus Cardiff City at the Stadium of Light. We'll see you soon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to SAFC Live. The guests do not stop here on SAFC Live. We're now joined by club historian Rob Mason. We just had Marcus Stewart down here. We were just saying how well he's dealing with everything in his life. But he was a great player for Sunderland, wasn't he?
Great player, great bloke. I haven't heard what you've said to Marcus, but I could see him on screen in the distance. Delighted to see him here. I didn't know Marcus was coming today.
He just wanted to talk about the football.
Yeah, he would do. Great memories of Marcus, from when he played for Sunderland. Firstly, memories of him on the pitch, and he did a really, really good job for Sunderland. And secondly, memories of him off the pitch, where he was always a really good character, good bloke to have around the club. And of course, I can only join in, I'm sure what you two chaps have just said, is that everybody at Sunderland wishes Marcus absolutely every success, everything at the best to overcome what's been dealt his way.
Yeah. Okay then, back on to business this afternoon. 3 p.m. kickoff here against Cardiff City. And Danny, they find themselves at the bottom end of the division, but we know Sunderland have found these games to be banana skins.
Yeah, I think that's the worry, isn't it, this afternoon? Looking at record against Cardiff is perhaps not great here either, if we're on the last 3 at the Stadium of Light against them. Yeah. But, when we play like we can, we've been through this, move the ball quicker, simple as that for me. They'll come up here, they've had a difficult week. Villa last Friday night in the Cup, they lost that 2-0. Burnley in midweek, come close, should have took a point out. A great chance at the end, lost 2-1, but finally put a ball past Burnley's keeper, which a lot of teams have struggled to do. I just chatted to one of the media guys in there. He said, listen, you could beat us 6-0 or we could win 3-0. We don't know what we're going to get from this Cardiff side, so we'll have to wait and see. But they've got 1 or 2 sort of half-decent players in there. Robinson, 2 goals this season. He's coming into the side this afternoon. He's a threat to the pitch, but they'll expect moments, counter-attacks, set pieces. We've got to be careful and we've got to be switched on.
Yes, let's throw up the Sunderland side if we can, because Rob, perhaps surprisingly, they are unchanged, but unsurprisingly, after a win, you don't really tinker with the side.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of talk all week about what he would do, whether Dennis Circle would come back in for Leo Hjelde, whether Mjelde would keep his place, whether Mjelde would go on the right and maybe Patrick drop out. I think that might happen on Tuesday, because I don't think Patrick will play 3 games in a week, but you don't know. But Mjelde earned his chance last week. He took his 2 goals well. He also showed some real bursts of pace down the right-hand side when he did go to the right, and it's fantastic that you've got Wilson Isidore. If Regis Lebris looks over his shoulder and thinks, who am I going to put on, I need a goal, he's looking at the top scorer to come on possibly. And equally with Tommy Watson, delighted to see Tommy back now, and with Romain Mundle having recently come back from injury. Again, when about an hour, 65 minutes has gone, if Romain's sort of running out of steam a little bit and he wants to put some fresh legs on, he's got a quality player who was on the top of his game when he went out after, before his injury, to come on. So it's good that at this time we're looking like we've got some serious strength in depth in key positions.
Yeah, and Tommy Watson back on the bench today.
Yeah, fantastic for Tommy. I'd say we lost Romain, didn't he? And then Tommy got his opportunity. A couple of goals against Stoke, I think it was, wasn't it? The two in the same game, and then he was in good form. He was gradually growing. You could see his confidence. I think Sheffield United away had an excellent game down there, and unfortunately picked up an injury, which was a good tackle actually. It was like a block tackle, wasn't it? But Tommy come off second best, so good to see him back in, and hopefully we'll get to see him this afternoon. But yeah, I'm a little bit really surprised, more so that maybe we haven't changed it. Yes, I know we won last Friday night at Sheffield Wednesday. I'm surprised that Wilson hasn't come back in. I thought maybe he would have gone 2 up top. But I keep saying it's not happening, so we get on with it.
Yeah. Sunderland approach this game this afternoon because we will be expecting them to stick on behind the ball.
Of course. I mean, Danny's just made the point, talking to somebody from Cardiff, they might get thumped or they might actually come here and get a result. Yeah, they've won the last 3 games here at Sunderland. We've equally won the last 2 at Cardiff. I'm certainly hoping it's not going to be 6 away wins in succession in this particular fixture. But we saw that they recently lost 7 at Leeds. They're not going to come and ship that many goals. They've obviously had a positive reaction since that in terms of their performances against Burnley and Aston Villa, and they'll have taken some encouragement from that. There will be difficult opponents this afternoon. What matters this afternoon is the Sunderland win. Rather like at Sheffield Wednesday last week, it doesn't matter if we don't win till late on, it doesn't matter if we don't play well. For me, this is the time of the season. It's results that matter, not performances. Of course, you want a good performance and a good win. That's ideally what we want. But sometimes early in the season, you can not get a good result, and players will tell you, no, we're pretty happy with the way we played on. Will tell you that. This stage of the season, give me the result ahead of the performance. If it's an ugly game like it was at Sheffield Wednesday and we come off 2-1 winners, happy days, move on to Preston. Just win the game.
And I guess what we can't allow is the away side to get the first goal, as we saw against Hull City.
Yeah, well, exactly that. You give them something to hang on to then, really, especially if they don't come out and play as such. I think, go back to the whole game, I thought we started really well first 10 minutes. Then Hull had a bit of possession, got themselves into it, crowd went flat, and then they had one or two half chances, then they go and get the goal. Yes, a bit of a mess, and then it was difficult then, because a team comes up here, their mentality is sit back deep, make it difficult. Well, when they got the goal, it becomes even more difficult then, because they've got that, and they think, our box, frustrate Sunderland, frustrate the fans, and then can we get over the line? And that was the case for Hull that afternoon. So they'll have worked on it this week. They know what's going to happen. That Cardiff, they've had a difficult game against Burnley in midweek. They come out second best, 2-1. They come up here today, I say set pieces, counter attacks from our corners or us committing bodies forward. It's where we've got to be switched on at the sure we're organised and don't get caught cold.
And in terms of any kind of historical kind of angle you've got, have we got much of a history with Cardiff City?
There's been one or two big games with them. Cardiff City saw the 1973 Cup winners before Sunderland supporters did, because when we won the FA Cup in 1973, we didn't bring the trophy back till the Tuesday night, because on Monday we had an away game at Cardiff, which Cardiff needed a point to stop up, and Cardiff's manager Ron Scowler was a former teammate of Bob Stoker's at Newcastle, so it finished 1-1, and I think everybody happy, Danny, if you know what I mean. But also, when we got promoted ourselves in 1980, last away game of the season, Cardiff, we needed to win really. It was a 1-1 draw. Sadly, Jeff Clark, who'd been excellent for us that season at centre half, got stretched and didn't play for a long time. But then it was our turn to face the FA Cup winners, because 12 days later, I think it was, we played West Ham United a couple of days after they'd beat Arsenal in the FA Cup final to win the FA Cup. And this time it was us that got the result against the FA Cup winners. So those are the two games that spring out to me against Cardiff. There's many others. Those are the first two that come to mind.
Danny, it must be a bit weird for you, because you would have had to go to Cardiff for your Welsh international training and that. And obviously, in South Wales you've got the two big clubs, and they're very big clubs, aren't they, in South Wales, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they're both obviously sort of bottom half of the table at this moment in time, and so they've both recently had a stint in the top flight, and the rivalry, of course, it is. Yeah, and as you say there, I spent a lot of time down there. We generally in Glamorgan in the Vale Hotel, and my days training down there, and it's big, football's big down there. I know rugby's the main sport down in Wales, but two big clubs, and they'll be looking certainly next season push forward. Priorities is staying up this year, but to try and push on playoffs and then try and force their way back amongst it to try and get back to the Premier League.
Yeah, if they're careful, Wrexham might
Wrexham, yeah, they're up the rails as well, aren't they? Yeah, so.
Well, Wrexham are obviously flying at the moment under Phil Parkinson, of course, and with a number of ex-Sunderland players. But when you talk about Cardiff City, they are, of course, the only team to ever win the FA Cup from outside of England. And it's not too many years that they were actually in the FA Cup final. Was it about 2008 or something? They were in the cup final. It's got quite a decent, fairly recent history as well as their ancient history. And speaking of ancient history, you may or may not have mentioned this earlier today, Frankie, but I should mention today is Sunderland's 5,000th league game.
Yeah, how significant is that for Sunderland AFC?
Well, it's just a historical quirk. It's for the anoraks of football like me, really. But we're the 14th club to reach the 5,000 league game mark. After the match today, I gather a representative of the Football League is going to make a presentation to the club pitch side straight after the final whistle. So it just goes to illustrate, the longevity, if you like, of Sunderland as a football club. We weren't one of the founder members, but we were the first club to join the league after the first founder members, our first game being way back in 1890. And not counting playoff games or any other games at all, just simply league games, today is Sunderland's 5,000. So it's a noteworthy occasion.
And speaking of milestones as well, we understand there's going to be a presentation in about 5-10 minutes time with Luke O'Brien, who's reached 300 appearances, the first player to do so since Michael Gray. But in that all-time list, where does he stand?
Well, in the all-time list, I mean, we've got about 10 players, I think it is, with over 400 appearances. A good sort of 20 to 30 players in the 300s. But in the modern day era, footballers tend not to stay at the club for the length of time they did in the past. So for any player, any club in the modern era to play 300 games for one club, it illustrates what a tremendous servant he's been to the club. And given where we were when Luke was at the club, the number of different positions he's played, he's now made a centre-back of his own. But looking at the number of games Luke's played for the club, I think when we got promoted, a lot of people said he's a Division 3 player, a League 1 player. He'll not make it in the Championship. He's proved everybody wrong. He's a really important player and an important character for Sunderland. All credit to him. And in terms of where he ranks in the ranks of Sunderland players, well, I'd say he's reached 300 games. You don't reach 300 games without being a good player, and to do it in the modern era, hats off to him and well done.
And let's not forget as well, he had those shoulder injuries in League One as well. He was out for a long time, so he could have been on this milestone a lot earlier.
I remember before surgery and that shoulder injury, he was one of those players like the man I'm stood next to who would always play. Yeah. We've all known some players, let's not name them, I think we all know who they are, who won't
Come on,
play.
let's name them.
A little bit flaky,
no,
Bob.
let's not name them. Let's not name them. I'll get in trouble.
You're tempting me. Some players who've not been so keen to play if things aren't well for them.
And the fans recognise that, don't they? The fans recognise character in players, don't they?
Luke and Ian was playing when he was on arm, basically. You could tell he was never going to take a throw-in, was it? But equally, when every other club knew that, we all saw games where he was very much targeted, and he it, and he kept going for a long time until he did get that. So, as I say, as a character, absolutely top class, and he's done a tremendous job for Sunderland. Very, very key player, and as I say, well done to him for getting the 300 games. I was, in terms of the plaque he's getting today, officials from the club were in touch with me a week or two ago to just check which game it was to make sure the plaque was right. But of course, he also holds the record, which I pointed out a few weeks ago, as having played more games here at the Stadium of Light than any other player in our history, which is another notable feather in his cap.
Okay, the players are running in behind you, Rob. I don't want you to step back with